to the Reheat on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook. That's Evan Veith. Got a little bit of football discussion before we get you ready for the College World Series elimination game. Make sure you head to Inside Texas. All the latest on recruiting, the team, and the College World Series is at Inside Texas using that first link in our description, using that QR code at the top left of the screen. 50% off gets you the ultimate fan bundle. That's Inside Texas. That's On 3. And that's Rivals. Come join us. Great time, especially ahead of this upcoming official visit weekend and however long Texas remains in Omaha. Evan, I know, let's see, you just graduated. You didn't get to see some of the best of the shoulder number era.
No.
If you know Steve Ross, you know was his basically biggest problem with that era, aside from some bad coaching. But Texas uniforms have not changed a whole lot in the course of the past 26 years. They've been Nike the whole time. They've had numbers here. They haven't. They've had a Longhorn patch here. They haven't. Some small quirks here and there. But they are making another subtle change to the uniforms. They're not getting black uniforms. They're not getting orange pants. They're not changing the jerseys all that much. But they are doing something that LSU and Florida already have done, at least if we can go off of Wardell Mack's Instagram story from earlier today or yesterday. If you can see there, the SEC patch, and this is something that that Chris Del Conte talked about during his February athletics town hall. They wanted to move that SEC patch from the shoulder to the chest. Looks like they have done so. Looks like picture day is going on over these next couple days. And it looks like the Longhorns are simplifying their jersey just a touch ahead of the 2026 season.
Look, while I'm looking at Joe is Lawrence Seymour's locker in the background. There's proof of concept. He is a real human being now.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of the players have been kind of leaking is not the right word. We were going to find out sooner rather than later. But yeah, posting on their Instagram, definitely doing those, DKR introductions that you see on the big board when they show up in the game. The Arch Manning staring at the screen. But yeah, Mac and Hayward Howard right here showing them off. I like where it is. I think having the lines kind of go down into the patch looks really sleek. It feels very SEC to have it be front and center. And I do wonder, Joe, like the question then becomes like, is this opening up space for advertisement? Is it opening up space for something else to go there? I don't know. I like exactly how it looks right now. I don't really care about the symmetry aspect of things, like just have it one here, but you do wonder that is now something. I know some of the other schools believe there's a Tyson's logo coming around to the SEC. So, like, is there something coming to Texas that would be on the patch? Maybe human? I'm not sure. I want to know what you have to think about that, Joe.
Chris Bennett brings this up. Y'all are too young to remember the Reebok era. I have a Reebok practice jersey that I'm pretty sure my mom went and got from a not the estate sale, but from the surplus sale. Number 3. Been wearing that a lot around. Maybe not around the house. It's somewhere in a closet somewhere. But I'm not too young for the Reebok era. But like you mentioned, all the same, still Nike. And hey, you know what? It does clean it up a little bit, but it does make some real estate. And there's a big, wide open right shoulder on both Wardell Mack and Hayward Howard right there. They have had some, ceremonial patches. The 2023 Red River Shootout comes to mind with all the gold accents and the gold patch there, which I wish wasn't a one-off. That the fact that game went a certain way for Texas makes the memory better, but I thought that was a good look for both teams. But they've had the College Football 150. They had 5 different things it felt like with Big 12, the Longhorn logo, the Nike patch. In 2020 they had a patch as well, and then they would have their bowl patch for various different postseason events. That's a lot going on. But like you mentioned, we have seen a lot of teams take on sponsorships. LSU has done it. Arkansas has done it. Those are 2 notable SEC examples. Michigan State just did one, I think, in the past couple of days for all their teams. And Texas did say, way back, I'm trying to remember all the different semantics for it. But Steve, it sounded like Chris Del Conte was wary of an on-field sponsor until Human came along and it had the right story for him. And he explained it in a very Chris Del Conte way. It sounds like as long as Texas gets enough funding from everything else, they're not going to look for funding for an on-jersey patch.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's the best way to put it, Joe, because when you think about the human connection, which kind of came out of nowhere for a lot of people, but I believe the founder either went to the University of Texas or had a very strong connection back to Texas, and Del Conte felt like it was worth maybe the criticism and backlash of going with the corporate sponsorship, because it's something that the players can actually use. It's a thing that he believes in. It's a thing that dates back to the university, which there's no Tyson food brand for Texas. To double down on that, or a Walmart. There's just nothing like that. Like I don't think Michael Dell has any interest in putting a patch on a jersey that just says Dell right here. Like that doesn't matter for them or the players or the university. So I don't see why that would happen. You bring up the question because that's the first thing you think of when you see that it's being moved. But I just think this might be the final look at the jerseys, and also you do wonder, Joe, if they were going to do that, they'd probably be a little tighter on the players. Like maybe don't post pictures of the jerseys right now, just for us to add a logo that people might not like in a sponsorship in the summer. So I doubt that. I wouldn't be too worried about it. I'm just looking forward to how these little promotional videos show up in Wardell Mack and Hayward Howard.
Yeah, no kidding. This is always a fun time of year. And jersey number reveal time is always entertaining. Like you said, looking for Lawrence Seymour. It looks like that's a 50 back there. 50. And then Elijah Ali with a workmanlike 55 I saw was revealed as well. So a lot of fun there. But you know what? It feels like it would have to take a substantial deal or a very UT-related sponsor, and I kind of thought UFCU for Chris Del Conte to change his mind. But from going off of his own words in February, like I mentioned, it's one of those things where, look, if I can get money without having to put something on the jersey and without having to put something on the helmet, I'm going to do that because he doesn't want to change up the jerseys all that much. Before we keep going, got to show some love to our sponsor, and that is David McClellan.
Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description.
As we get going, got to talk a little bit about Steve Sarkisian looking at some explosive plays. And he was on Kay Adams earlier this week, in fact, the other day on Monday. And he was talking about a wide variety of different things as far as what to look for from the team, what to look for from the offense. And he talked about explosive plays. And if you look at Texas last year, I wrote an article about this over at Inside Texas. Longhorns saw their explosive play totals when you look at plays of 30 yards or more dip last year. A big reason behind that was because the rushing explosive play numbers were way, way down. In fact, Hollywood Smothers and Rayleigh Brown at their various teams last year almost totaled as much as Texas did last season. The Longhorns are looking for more explosive plays, and Steve Sarkisian said he believes that fans should expect more big plays this upcoming year.
Yeah, I think with what you have all together compared to what you had all together last year, there's just so many more avenues that you can find that kind of explosion, and between both the 15-yard type of explosive plays, and I think some places have different definitions, a 10-yard run or a 15-yard pass or anything 15 plus, or a pass has to be 20, whatever it is. There's some of that's going to be added, and I think that most comes from the running game, right? You're going to have more of those, just little bursts, and they might not be game-changing plays every time, but, first and 10, 12-yard run feels really, really good for an offense, and, especially if your return game is at a good spot, then those immediately set you up for the big time explosives. And when we're talking about when you're in between the 40s, where that's when offensive coordinators really hunt for those huge, big time over the top plays, because that's when the field feels the longest for a defense, when there's, still 30 yards behind a safety playing the deepest of grass for a wide receiver to run. But you can get away with maybe having an incompletion on first down there on a play action play. So you have Wingo coming back and Arch Manning coming back, which that was one of the two people he pointed out on the Kay Adams show. Like that, those are two guys who did generate explosives. And sometimes it was kind of painstakingly, like Arch had to, limp his way to a 70-yard touchdown run against Michigan, or Wingo, it had to be a bubble screen because you couldn't get him going over top. But those were there. And now you're adding two running backs that can do that. I think Ryan Niblett and Ian Boyd did a great job talking about this. Like Niblett now in a more defined role for a full offseason, they're going to find better ways to hit the ball in his hands and kind of replicate those throwback screens, those pitches to the outside, even the flea flicker one that we saw against Vanderbilt. They'll get Niblett going there. And of course, with Cam Coleman and Jermaine Bishop being added at wide receiver, that's where you're talking about the true like downfield shot plays. I think of, Coleman going straight vertical and a lot of Bishop plays where he's kind of running arcs or going behind the quarterback, or he's running downfield and crossing over the side of the field, forcing a safety to carry and run with him. So there's just so many more avenues for this team to do it. Even, Joe, I'm looking forward to that first explosive tight end screen, right? When Nick Townsend, they make it look like they're going to run one way and slowly Townsend gets the ball and he only has, a cornerback to beat and break a tackle for. So there's just so many more ways to do it. And I think that's why he did all the things he did in the offseason. And that's why he maybe looked away from the, we talk about the duo of running backs of a power back. He really seemed to want to get just two guys who, no matter who's on the field, if it's them or Niblett or Derek Cooper, that can really hit a home run at any point. He obviously succeeded in doing that as a roster builder.
I think the fact that when you look at the 3-year trend, 2023, they had 29 pass plays of 30 or more yards. And like you had mentioned, a lot of definitions change for what explosive plays are, but 30 is explosive. You are flipping the field. You're changing the math from maybe punt to field goal or go for it with one single play. So in 2023, they had 29 pass plays of 30 yards. In 2024, they had 30 pass plays of 30 yards. And then in 2025, they had 26, still that respectable total. And I think a lot of that speaks to what Steve Sarkisian is able to manufacture as far as schemes in the passing game. Hey, Ryan Wingo, that was the way you got explosive plays in 2025. Well, we're going to get you at the ball out in space. We're going to try to get DeAndre Moore going in a certain direction on a slot fade. We're going to do that type of thing in 2025. That still is available to Texas. Of course, you can go Ryan Wingo horizontal. You can go Emmett Mosley. He had a fair share of 20-ish yard plays. And that with Cam Coleman in his career, 14-yard average reception, average per 14-yard average per reception. A lot of those are 20. A lot of those could be 30 as well. A lot to work with there. But just the fact that those are just a result of Steve Sarkisian scheming things up. The run game stuff, that speaks to the offensive line and the running backs. And I think that's why Texas is going to look, maybe not for Arch Manning to think. I think he ended up with about, maybe at least 8 of those explosive run plays for the Longhorns. That's why they went to the portal to get Smothers, to get Brown, and hope that those two paired with an offensive line go along with that average total we've seen from the passing game, but bring up the rushing number in a way that, they did not expect to see it dip last year.
Joe, one of my favorite stats, and I wanted to pull it up to make sure I got the exact spots right here, is yak per reception numbers for wide receivers in the SEC this past year. And, some of the sample sizes change things up, but generally, like, the best yak wide receiver in the SEC who's returning is Mario Craver, which not all that surprising. That's what A&M does well. And then the only other two above 8, he's at 9.7 yak per reception, are Trey Richardson from Vanderbilt and Ryan Wingo. Like, Ryan Wingo was one of the best yak receivers in the nation, and especially in the SEC returning. All the way in last place of people that qualify as Cam Coleman for yak per reception, or yak, per reception, because he just goes up and gets the ball. And I think one thing that Texas is going to do well is finding a few more ways to make that. I don't think you ever want your receiver, especially your superstar receiver, which Cam Coleman was supposed to be at Auburn. You don't want him to be last in yak. Like, it's okay if your ex receiver is going up and getting a lot of catches where he's just catching and falling. That's fine. But you need to find more ways to just get him going and get his legs moving and get the ball in his hands and moving around a little bit. There was, I believe it was one of the Vanderbilt games, one of the middle of the year games when you scout Auburn with Coleman when he was coming over to Texas, that was like, hey, they tried him on slants a few times and like he actually was breaking tackles, and it wasn't quite running past people the way that Wingo does, but he would fight for extra yards. And then they didn't do it in the first part of the year. They did it for about 3 games in the middle and then completely went away from it to end it. So I'm very interested to see how, if Wingo is going to be 1-2 with Craver for yak yards this year, and where Coleman actually finds, slots into that. And you mentioned the O-line at the end there, Joe, and I remember watching, Ian and Connor recently talking about, what could be the problems with this Texas team? Why would they maybe not win a national title or the SEC, what have you? And they talked a lot about a few things. And of course, the offensive line was brought up, but it wasn't that the offensive line couldn't help generate explosives, right? It was, can they grind out yards on 3rd and 2, which, that's always going to be a part of things that you're concerned about with Texas, with the team they have right now. But this is an O-line that is very well built for running to the outside and getting, Siani and Gooseby out there and blocking players. And they definitely are going to be good in pass pro. I think, I don't think there's going to be those big gaps left from the left guard spot like last year. And that's going to also create explosives. So it really does feel like, Joe, more than ever with Sark, he has built an entire 11 of offensive players and another, 5 or 6 skill guys that are only made to be the most explosive offense in the nation.
My one last thing on Coleman, and I watched a full game of his, and I think it was at a certain point when Auburn knew Jackson Arnold was not it. They're like, we got to just get the ball in his hands. And so there are a lot of now screens to where, okay, you have the ball at the line of scrimmage, try and go do something else. And the game I watched was Georgia, and that ended up going a certain way with what that Bulldogs defense was able to do. So, yeah, he's going to have an opportunity to showcase that he can do more than just, go up, catch the ball, come down with it, and that be it. He's going to have an opportunity to catch some screens like Wingo is being used. He's going to be able to go over the middle, and, he's excited to talk to showcase his route running. That was something that he's very clear about over the spring and some media availabilities, and I think that Texas is trying to show him like, hey, we got a better offensive mind than Hugh Freeze and a better quarterback than Jackson Arnold here at Austin. Is this a football-only show? Thoughts on baseball? I think that's what we're going to get out of here with. Texas starts in about just under 3 hours. Play the Georgia Bulldogs in an elimination game. The winner has to beat Oklahoma twice in order to get into the College World Series Championship Series. And despite a 7-1 defeat, you put that one mostly to Georgia. The first game, you put that one a lot on defensive miscues. You put that one on just a sloppy play, a great outing from Joey Volcho from the Bulldogs. And now you come back, you use one premium arm in Ruger Riojas, you used one premium arm in Dylan Volantis, and you're entering an elimination game today with maybe the best possible allotment of pitchers you could ask for in Game 3 of a College World Series.
Yeah, I mean, these two teams are, they've used their 1 and 2 starters, and then the rest of the staff is completely open. I think maybe Texas would refrain from using Brody Walls unless we're, talking about a 12-inning game where you just need someone to throw some strikes at the end of a game. But outside of Walls, which, either way, he's not your primary closer or setup guy. Texas has Luke Harrison to throw out, and then as long as Luke Harrison can go, they will then have, Thomas Burns for leverage. They have the lefties and LeFew and Walker, which the 4 through 7 spots in Georgia's order, you want to have a lefty arm to face them because 3 of those 4 are lefty hitters, and those are some really good power bats there. And then you've got Burns in the 7th or 8th and Cozart as well in the 8th and 9th. And, so a lot of people are talking, Joe, about, so if they win, who's starting tomorrow? I don't care. They need to win. They'll figure it out. At some point, it's just you need your good arms to pitch, and I think that's what Schloss would do. It's whoever is our best arm, whoever I'm most confident in, they're going to start that ball game. If Cozart's somehow available to start that game, I've talked about it on the board, the very best case scenario for Texas, I would actually feel really good about them going on to the World Series final is if somehow Cozart doesn't have to be used tonight, and then he can be your Game 4 starter, and then Volantis. So, that doesn't matter. They're going to try to win this game. Cozart will come in if it's anywhere close in the 8th and 9th. Georgia, they have their 3rd starter, Dylan Veig, who was their Saturday guy almost the entire year, pretty much SEC through the regional play, but had a rough regional game against Liberty, and then Aoki's been their number 2 in the 2 games since that would have been in those slots. So, he's coming in. He's almost an opener for them. He's really struggled. They get him out after like 2 2/3 a lot. So I would look to have him and then Matt Scott, who was a big time transfer, like 6'7" righty, not an overpowering fastball, but just a really good pitcher in college baseball. He'll get a lot of run. And then Justin Bird, I believe it is. He's kind of their Sam Kozar, like just an elite closer, super locked down, like 0 earned runs in his last 5 appearances kind of guy. So the pitching is going to be at a really high level for a Georgia-Texas game, given that it's game 3 of this postseason, because they've saved all their pitchers in Texas, pretty much has as well. But what I'm looking for, Joe, is kind of the sleeping giants. Who's going to wake up? Because the 3 through 5 for these orders have been really good. Right? Lujo, Ishikawa, Mendoza, Pack, Rodriguez, but it hasn't quite been the Phelps, Jackson, Tinney, Robbins shows. And I just wonder, like, is one of those 4 or 2 of those 4 going to really show up and kind of be the decider in a game like this?
Looking at the College World Series, despite, making some problems still for Texas, I feel like only 1 hit for Daniel Jackson from the Bulldogs, their star catcher. Was a big one. It went a long way, but that was not – he has not really been like a giant factor for Georgia in this series. Meanwhile, you had a Jekyll and Hyde game from the top of your order with Texas. You couldn't get anything going against Volchko in the game 1, but then you come out against Alabama and their starters and their pitching, and you put up 14 runs, and you get just phenomenal performances, obviously from Adrian Rodriguez, but the top of the lineup as well. So both teams have good reason to feel good entering this game, and going to be a lot of fun to watch here later tonight as Texas tries to make a matchup with Oklahoma happen in the semifinals. Evan, anything else?
This is such a great setup for a game, Joe. Like, you had that everyone calling it the game of the year coming into Saturday, and then it really disappoints. Like, I'm outside, unless you were just a neutral observer who loves pitching, like that was a pretty boring, not entertaining game and pretty sloppy. And then you still end up getting them back in an elimination game, still getting starting pitchers and good bullpen out there. Like, this is really setting up to be like a can't miss game for an elimination game in Omaha.
Yeah, going to be a lot of fun to track. We'll be talking about it over at Inside Texas, so come make sure you come join all the discussion for 50% off. Get that Ultimate Fan Bundle from Inside Texas, from On3, and from Rivals as well. Use that QR code at the top of the screen. We'll be talking about it over there. We'll get a game thread going shortly, so should be a lot of fun to track Texas in their College World Series journey. Evan, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on the Reheat on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.